Welcome to Peter and Ruffy's football show here on STV. The main talking points on tonight's programme: Celtic booked their place in the Champions League group stage draw after defeat in Israel last night to Hapoel Beersheva. Philip Senderos is back training with Rangers in a bid to win that move to Ibrox, and Aberdeen goalkeeper Joe Lewis reckons the Dons can win the Premiership title this season. That's just a few of the topics I'll be discussing alongside Alan Ruff. Our boot-room guest, I'm delighted to say, is esteemed journalist Hugh Keevins. OK lads, last night it was a result which had many a Celtic fan biting their nails, Ruffy, to put it mildly.
Yeah, I think before we start discussing it, I think first and foremost it's all about qualifications. and they're in the group stage, and I'm sure that's what everybody at Parkhead will be saying, but if we were to analyse it, it was a very, very poor performance with a lot of individuals just showing up. That for as far as European football is concerned, I think Celtic are still a wee bit short. I think they're very good in the SPFL, but when you come into that style of football, you have to have that different kind of player.
OK, Hugh, I hate to beat you to the punch. I'll use one of your classic words: shambolic.
Well, you know, Ruffy knows there's a saying in the game, sometimes it's better to be lucky than good. And Celtic were certainly luckier than they were good in Israel. But luck balances itself out, and they've taken many a dunt in the last 2 or 3 years in terms of European qualification. So payback time last night, and what a payback.
The financial rewards, I think everybody was talking about it prior to. You could understand why Brendan Rodgers and the Celtic players were dancing about, but to the game itself, and let's cut to the chase on this, I thought the goalkeeper was at fault, or maybe weak on the first one, and certainly the second one. Many a goalkeeper, Ruffy, would have smashed Sidi Yanko into row Z. Tell me, as a goalkeeper yourself, your take on Craig Gordon's part in both goals.
Yep, well again, I've obviously had a chance to look at them 2 or 3 times over now since last night. Of the 2 goals, I would probably fault him for the first one. I thought he had more than ample time. I mean, a goalkeeper of his ability, you know, and physique, you know, to get that ball out of the area, I think it just bounced up in front of him and he misjudged it. And looking at the second one, I would think honestly, if you were to ask him, he could have took it earlier. You know, he could have went and attacked it, but he didn't know that Yanko was going to come in and bash into him. So in that one, I give him the benefit of the doubt. He had the ball in his hand. He never fumbled it. He never did anything. You know, I think he should have attacked the ball more, been stronger in the box. But I have to say, if there's 100% blame, I'm giving 80% of it to Yanko.
I think there's a witch hunt where Craig Gordon's concerned now. Ever since the signing of Doris de Vries, there's been an assumption that Craig Gordon is under pressure and that de Vries will, of course, come into the team because he's previously worked with Brendan Rodgers. I would cut him some slack for what happened last night, because this particular goalkeeper has played behind a catalogue of catastrophic defenders. From Effie Ambrose to the new Effie Ambrose, Sidi Yanko. And I think he's been left in a place where he gets the blame for others' mistakes. I thought Kieran Tierney was complicit in the first goal last night. He was on the post, then he was off the post, then he'd run back to the post. And Yanko, I think, just got confused, as he had been all night, and banged into Gordon for the second goal. So I'm willing to cut Craig Gordon some slack. I think he's been unfairly judged at the moment.
Yep.
Yeah, and just to add on, at the end of the day, the penalty save won the tie.
Yeah, absolutely. Hindsight is a wonderful thing, isn't it? When we're all analysing these things. OK, they're into a group stage draw. More than likely, they'll be into pot 4. You're saying Real Madrid, Leicester, Barcelona, Bayern Munich, Juventus, Benfica, Paris Saint-Germain or CSKA Moscow are the potential teams they will meet from pot 1. I think Celtic fans will look and say, not Barcelona. Just because, not because of the prowess of Barcelona, merely because they've played them non-stop.
I think you have to be brutally honest about it, Peter. It doesn't matter who Celtic get. As Ruffy said, they're not equipped for the group stages. The money is the prize. Celtic will not go forward from the group stages. So you might as well have all the glamour that you can possibly muster. So if it's Real Madrid or Bayern Munich or Paris Saint-Germain or Tottenham Hotspur or whoever, Man City, Bring it on. It will be a great night for the supporters, 3 great nights for the fans, and see where Celtic can go. But it won't be very far.
How many do they need to at least bring an air of, confidence to the fans that they've got 3 new, 4 new, 5 new players? How many do you think?
Yeah, I agree with you. Not this year. Brendan Rodgers continually brings in the quality of players that he's brought in. I think maybe a year down the line, but you think you're talking 4 or 5 players with some kind of European experience. But like Hugh, the fans will enjoy it. I disagree with you. I would take Barcelona, Real Madrid. I think you need a big name, a big team coming with the big stars, the big names for the supporters.
Yeah. I'm not mentioning, Roffy, I think you've picked me up wrong here. I'm not mentioning the fact that Celtic don't want to play Barcelona. I'm mentioning the fact that they're scunnered playing them. They want to play Real Madrid, Hugh.
Well, if you're jaded by Barcelona, then you're in trouble. But yeah, Peter, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
They'll sell out anyway, regardless of who they're playing. They'll sell out 3 times.
Yeah, and with that in mind, selling it out means quite a lot of money, Hugh. In excess of 30 million is easily banked from what's gone before in the Champions Cup friendlies that we're playing, the games that were off the season ticket money alone, and the 20 million plus from Champions League uncontested TV money. It's a lot of money. Should they now go and say to the Brendan Rodgers, okay, here's a sizable sum, go and get the 3 quality players that you said that you would like to bring in?
Well, if Peter Lawwell and Dermot Desmond weren't dancing a Paso Doble in Israel last night, there's something wrong as well. The money's there. Now, there's a very obvious need here. This qualification campaign, which has ended in success, it began with grief in Gibraltar, losing to the famous Lincoln Red Imps, and it almost ended in catastrophe last night in Israel, because not for 25 years has a team blown a 3-goal aggregate lead in the Champions League, and Celtic came dangerously close to doing that. So for me, there's an absolute need to shore up a defence that over the course of the last 3 games, against Hapoel, against St Johnstone, and again against Hapoel in Israel, they have shipped 6 cheap goals. I'm not buying this philosophy that, we'll score 3 goals every time we play and that'll make up for the 2 we'll definitely lose. You can't approach your business like that, whether it's domestic football or European football. Celtic need defenders.
Yeah. I think so. One defender and something else, or just defenders for you?
The problem is there's a log jam here with Boyata, Simonovic, Ambrose, Sviatchenko. There's a log jam. And I can understand the reluctance to bring in more central defenders, but those who are there aren't good enough.
Yeah, I think you touched on it earlier. They need a 4 that's going to be a 4, not 1 in, 1 out. They need to get a settled centre-halves for a start. The goalkeeper will take confidence for that, 2 centre-halves. I think now the problem is the abundance of midfield players who aren't up to the standard to play at this level.
Yeah, I mean, they do have I think the key, as well as bringing players in, the success of Celtic could be offloading players as well. And I still think they need a full-back, a midfielder, a playmaker who can actually pass the ball forward and cut open defences and score goals, and then you need a striker.
This is a wonderful milestone for Brendan Rodgers. Less than 3 months at Celtic Park, got them into the Champions League for the first time in 3 years. However, I repeat, Lincoln Red Imps beat Celtic. Astana came close to beating Celtic. Now they've had the fright in Beersheba. They don't have sufficiently good defenders to cope with European football. And that's why the group stages could be a fairly hazardous business for Celtic.
The Celtic supporters might be fortunate now that they have a manager who will want to push forward. They'll want to improve, whereas the last manager was quite happy sitting where they were. I think this manager will insist, that he needs better players because he wants them to make them a better side.
Yeah, just briefly, Ruffy, some of the Celtic fans are just suggesting on social media that one of the signings is right under their very nose, and Patrick Roberts.
Yeah, again, that when you get somebody like Patrick Roberts, you're then adjusting the attacking force. He's already nailed Forrest there, and Sinclair on the other side. Roberts, to me, at this moment in time is a one-trick pony, a really good one-trick pony, a left-sided player who can cause havoc. Consistency for me is where he lacks, but again, he's just a young player. At this moment in time, it's now where do you fit him in?
We're talking about Patrick Roberts, who cost £11 million to take to Manchester City. They will want at least that amount back again, I would think. And for all the money that Celtic have made, I do not think a Scottish club is at the stage where they can pay that kind of transfer fee.
Welcome back to Peter and Ruffy's Football Show. We were talking about Celtic making it into the group stages of the Champions League. Of course, there are financial bonuses for the clubs in the Scottish Premiership because some of the clubs will get a nice little cheque, albeit next season, for £200,000, Hugh.
Well, not to be sniffed at in our economic state. So it is a sideshow where Celtic are concerned and a healthy one for our club. So I know that some people are reluctant to give Celtic praise and say they were lucky last night, but they are doing their best for the country as a whole. Yep.
Some more cynical people, if there is anybody out there who's more cynical than you, I've yet to meet them. Ruffy would suggest, well, okay, it's a token gesture, 200,000. The only thing that benefits Scottish football, is Celtic. They're in the Champions League. Everybody else just gets the scraps off the table. But as Hugh mentioned there, £200,000, is a lot to some of the clubs at the bottom end of the table.
I'm just going to say that there. I think next year, if that's going into the budget, I think teams like Inverness, Ross County, Partick Thistle, Motherwell, that could be 3 players.
Yeah.
That could be 3 players. I don't know what wages they're on, but the manager could be looking at that and saying, well, I would like some of that to bring in a better quality player. If they bring in a better quality player, then the league improves.
Yeah, when you consider the likes of Les Hutchinson is now away and it's a supporters group with control of Motherwell, that type of money does indeed, in many ways, keep them afloat, keep them running.
Well, we're not the greatest in this country for showing our gratitude to a team who have made the Champions League, but it is a valuable donation to these clubs' coffers.
Let's move on now to, of course, players can still come in and go out, and some teams are biting their nails, Ruffy. Callum Patterson, second bid, 700,000 from Wigan. They just won't go away, but still Hearts are digging their heels in.
Yeah, and again, as we spoke with Jason Cummins, it's a matter of intent to the supporters. I think when it's a reasonable fee on the table, the supporters will accept it. But obviously, Hearts still want to be in the top 3, and selling a player like him for, when you look at the 700,000, it doesn't seem a lot of money unless there's add-ons and everything. But they have to really handle that with care, I think, before anything happens.
Wigan will be back. Before the window closes, Wigan will come back. And eventually they'll get to £1 million and Hearts will say, done.
OK, doesn't get any more succinct than that. I wonder how long it's going to take for Rangers to make a decision on Philippe Senderos. I know that Mark Warburton last week, when I was watching him at the press conference, Ruffy mentioned that he hoped to have both deals for 2 targets done and dusted in 48 hours. One they got over the line was Joe Garner, but the other one now, with Lescott out of the picture, Senderos back training there, you would think he was in the box seat.
Yeah, well, if you listen to everything and believe everything you read, that he was great when he was over. He got on well with the players. His fitness level was good. Everything was positive. So you would think the guy would want to be back into the game again, and I wouldn't have thought he'd be hard to deal with.
No, I think he'll be a Rangers player before long. Released by Grasshopper Zurich, 31 years old. What kind of shape's he in? He's not the player who played in the English Premier League, but he should be good enough to play here.
Yeah, I mean, unless something has changed dramatically, we're now looking at some players at 31, they're talking about them in the twilight of their career. Senderos, certainly on the evidence of when he was coming out, he looked in good shape last Friday when he was leaving the Rangers training centre, so I don't see any problem there. As far as his match sharpness, that might take a couple of weeks, but you're looking at 31. I mean, Bastian Schweinsteiger is 31, and some people are writing as if he's completely and utterly finished you. I don't see him coming up to Scottish football, I have to say. I think even he has mentioned that his last club in Europe is Manchester United.
Well, and there are 3 markets that open up to players in his position: the American, the Asian and the Indian market, all of which will pay him handsomely. The football may not be the best, but some people get into a mindset where at 31, having achieved what Schweinsteiger has achieved, think, well, do you know what? I think I'll go and live in a nice sunny climate.
Yep, absolutely. And one man who decided that many years ago was Ruffy. And, you swapped Orlando for Glasgow again, Ruffy.
Yeah, it is, as Hugh said, it is a great lifestyle, going to countries like that, particularly with your family and everything, if they settle in very quickly. And that's why they're over there. I was watching Pirlo just before I come out to the show, and he's still strutting his stuff over there, and looks as if he's enjoying every minute of it.
Yeah, you could have the option, as many a player does, to go to Dundee, Hugh, but Mario Bellatti certainly didn't enjoy his time there, because I was reading his comments on his time there. Now, here is a guy who was really unlucky with injuries, one after the other. Certainly not too complimentary about Dundee United's handling of his current or his predicament with the injuries, but they did mention that he thought Dundee was dark, gloomy and a working class town stuck in the past. Has he missed anything there?
I think he's wrong. I like old Dundee. It's a nice place, and it's undergone a transformation of its own in recent years, so I think he's out of order to make those remarks. I felt sorry for him with the catalogue of injuries, but he's not exactly God's gift to the game, is he?
Yeah, it was quite... I'm looking at you, Ruffy. You're wearing here for this one.
I'm surprised he's got a lovely, nice big boat up there as well. That he's left out, a bit of history as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And
he's obviously never went down there far to see it.
This has turned into a PR exercise for Dundee.
Has he never been to the ferry for an ice cream? I mean, really?
Honestly, I can't believe he was so savage in that. Some footballers just don't have a grasp on reality, and that brings me nicely to Joe Lewis from Aberdeen, who reckons Aberdeen can shock everyone and win the Premiership this year, Hugh.
Well, I must have missed something then. They will be there, like Hearts, in a capacity where they will take points from Celtic and from Rangers. They will influence the outcome of the Championship, but they will not challenge for the title. They are not consistent enough, and they don't have the players to challenge for the title.
I wonder sometimes if, it's great having confidence and enthusiasm for it, but I don't see anything that's been added that suddenly suggests that some of the slip-ups that they recorded last year will be eradicated, Ruffy.
No, you're right. If you look at the squad, it's the same players in defence, it's the same players in the midfield. Up front, they'll score goals, but unfortunately they'll lose more in the big games that matter, and that's always been the problem.
Yeah, just before we finish the programme, Hugh, obviously that Malta against Scotland kicks off our World Cup qualifying campaign. Hugh McDonald has been on the show on countless occasions, not very enthusiastic about our chances of making it. This is a big tournament for Gordon Strachan, because it's make or break time. He's had the nation behind him. We didn't make it to France. Now I think everyone will start to really look at the results and the performances, with a fine-tooth comb.
I would share Hughie's scepticism when it comes to our chances of qualification. I'm not sure that we have a squad of players good enough to do so, but giving them the benefit of the doubt, everything starts in Malta on the 4th of September. That has to set the tone. A win and nothing but a win will suffice. Anything other than a win, and the qualification campaign is all but nosedived before it's begun.
Yeah, I think the pressure of not qualifying last year has added the pressure this year. I think every game, every point will now be seen as a prisoner, and any that we don't get, unfortunately, I think we're now in the position where we're going, unfortunately, the squad is going to come under a lot of heavy criticism. Yeah,
Darren Fletcher's the captain. Is there a natural successor after him?
I'd go for freshness, Peter. 20 years since we've been anywhere. We are always looking inward. Woe is us, what can we do? I'd go for freshness. I'd take Andrew Robertson. Now, I'd let him grow in the role. He plays in the top flight of English football. He's someone who has survived rejection in his own playing career, built himself up again. I would let him grow into the role and say, go on, young man, take us forward.
Okay, you can interact with us at Peter and Ruffy on Twitter, facebook.com/Peter and Ruffy, to give us your thoughts on some of the topics we've been discussing as ever. Great to have Hugh Keevins on the show. Just before we finish, Ruffy, spare a thought for Gareth Bale on the verge of signing a new deal, £375,000 a week. But as Hugh and I always say, is he really happy?
Yeah, where do you hide all that money?
Yeah,
There isn't a bed big enough.
yeah, absolutely. Dundee is my answer. Nobody would think of looking for it there, Gareth, just in case you're wondering. Okay, thanks to Hugh Keevins for joining us. Tomorrow, another Hugh. Hugh McDonald will be with us to assess that Champions League group stage draw where Celtic will be in among Europe's elite once more. It's been a long wait for them. Thanks to Hugh Keevins tonight. From Alan Ruff and myself, Peter Martin. Join us at 7 tomorrow if you can.